Joining us today is the editor of the financial newsletter, The International Forecaster, at theinternationalforecaster.com. And he took a week off last week, so we've got a lot to catch up on the financial front. Thank you very much, Bob Chapman, for joining us in the Power Hour today.
Well, you're welcome. It's nice to be back.
Nice to have you here. And, gosh, things are going so well. The president said that the stimulus package worked. Why doesn't California have any money, and why do we have like 11% unemployment?
Well, first of all, California's been going broke since, I would say, about 1990. That's when I think probably the illegal alien problem peaked, and from then on it was downhill. In Southern California, about 40% of the people don't pay taxes of any kind. And so you can't run a state when you have no income, and of course they're using social services of one form or another. And so when you have that, you're destined for real trouble. And it's the main reason I left Southern California in 1994. Obviously, I was a little premature, but the basic facts were all there. And so as far as California is concerned, it's a terminal situation. They're going to have to cut back government by perhaps 30%. And I don't know how they can raise taxes because the state tax rate in California is one of the highest in the country. I know that I paid I think it was around 15% to the state of California. I made a lot of money, so I was in the top bracket. But that's outrageous.
Yes.
What are they going to do, raise it another 10%?
Well, the idea, though, that they're $23 billion in debt. My question is, when do they stop and start saying we have a problem? You mean $11 billion in debt was not a problem? That we shouldn't have addressed? We just keep on going and keep on going. I understand they are actually giving out IOUs now in the state of California. How many people can live? Do they take their IOU to the grocery store with them?
No, they have to take them to a bank, and the banks that have said that they will accept them will only do so to the 15th of this month. What's going to happen after that, I don't know. They're supposed to be the same as cash, when in fact they're not. It's just an attempt to put things off, which is not going to solve the problem one bit, and they're hoping that legislature will approve more spending so that they can cover that. But the real problem in California is that it basically is a very liberal state, and they can't control themselves. I mean, they spend money like there's no tomorrow, and it's dropping off trees. And they still have the same mindset. There's a lot of people in California as well who are Marxists, and you know how disrupting they can be to the system. And a lot of them are in the legislature. And so that's why the governor has the problem he has, trying to come up with the ability to either cut the workers' costs or to gain some sort of an advantage so they can pay their bills.
Well, it seems to me that the very fact that we're spending gazillions of dollars now on the military, I mean, that's where our money is going right now. And just as in we were talking about, California being a failed state, well, Israel's been a failed state for 60 years, but that doesn't stop us from supporting them. So perhaps, and I understand the argument of, well, that's our ally in the Middle East, but, maybe if we weren't supporting everybody else, maybe we could support our own country.
Well, I think that's a very good point, and has been for many years. You were talking earlier about Cynthia McKinney. Was she and those people who she was with, were they in a Israeli prison?
Yes. in an Israeli prison.
Why would they put them in prison?
Because they were heading to Gaza with supplies, and the U.S. had warned that any boats would be intercepted that was headed toward Gaza to help resupply them with humanitarian efforts. So they said, well, we're going to take the boat over. So they did. They took possession of the boat and all of their belongings and put them in jail. This happened, I think it was on I'll have to pull the story out here to see which day it was on. But it appears now that they have been released. But, this didn't make any news anywhere. Think about this.
It's disgraceful. Do you want those people in Gaza to die because they don't have medicine, or die because they don't have food?
Well, they're bad guys.
What kind of a regime is that?
Well, they're bad guys. Obviously, if we've labeled them bad guys, and, Hamas, well, since we've labeled them bad guys, then we can't help them. But the idea, though, that a former U.S. representative, 6-term U.S. representative, and a former president campaigning for presidency on the Green Party and a Nobel laureate were all imprisoned in Israel, and nobody knows a thing about it because CNN wants you to think more about Michael Jackson and think that's the most important thing on the television today.
Yeah, you're right. Unfortunately, and that's the level of, what will we call it, attention span of the American people.
Mm-hmm. That's it. And they want us to believe that is the most important story. That's all we will focus on. And so, therefore, now, the only thing we think about right now is Michael Jackson, a former U.S. representative, 6-term, imprisoned in Israel. I'm just appalled at this. The Daily PK has really called it for what it is and saying basically that, they would not have been surprised if she had been put in Guantanamo and waterboarded. And I think that's probably pretty accurate.
Well, the last two administrations, and one we've got, believe in torture. And so what you're saying is it could be true. It obviously didn't happen, but Israel. I have such misgivings because of what they've done over the years, and expansion into the Golan Heights area and things like that. I wonder what they're thinking about.
Well, we know the situation there, and we know that that's just one little problem in this world that we've got right now. But right now I'm concerned about U.S. and Russia. I'm concerned about the United States going over there and trying to make this look like this is going to be a nice family event where Obama takes his children and goes for a holiday in Russia, when in reality the relationship between the United States and Russia is not good at all. And I really think they're trying to put lipstick on this pig over there.
Well, I think you're right. And it's the policy of the powers behind government to put in that missile system in Poland close to the Russian border, as well as the radar installations in the Czech Republic. And, of course, the Russians don't want that, and rightly so. They have no right to do that. The excuse that they're using to intercept Iranian missiles is about as dumb as they come. Just like, Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. But the powers behind our government, namely in this case Zbigniew Brzezinski, this is all part of his plan, which he laid out in the early 1980s, to bring about domination by the U.S. and Western Europe as well, of the Eastern Europe, as well as a backstop to any possible expansion by China or India. Mm-hmm. And if you read his book on the subject, you'll find that these are the plans that were laid out, and it involved the war in Iraq and in Afghanistan and Pakistan as well. Well,
but Russia's already said, hey, we don't like your stinking dollar anymore. So, I mean, how much more are they going to do to us? And it's not just, isn't India also joining the crowd of people saying they don't want U.S. dollars?
Yes. And, quite frankly, you can't blame them. But on the other hand...
we don't like the dollar. Nobody likes the dollar anymore.
But the bottom line here is that all of these countries have deliberately made their currencies cheap in order to export. And in so doing, they created their own currency out of thin air, and then they took that currency and they turned it into dollars to make their currency go down in value, and then they purchased U.S. treasuries. And now this thing is coming home to roost. What they did was they financed the U.S. balance of trade deficit, and they also gave America cheap goods for a long time, and that kept inflation down in the United States.
You know, we've got a G8 meeting coming up July 8th to the 10th. Nobody's really talking about it very much, but Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Russia, and the U.S. are going to be meeting. I'd like to get to the thoughts of our guest, Bob Chapman. We'll also take some phone calls, 800-259-9231, back in 4 minutes.